I hear that all the time. And I will tell you, con artists don't outsmart you. Con artists outfeel you. They use your emotion against you. They use your human nature against you. They trick you into caring about them or caring about a cause they've created out of whole cloth. And then they use your caring, your love, to manipulate you. Because once you're making decisions with your heart and not your head, you're as good as conned. You know, I got conned out of close to $100,000 helping an Irish heiress get her inheritance. And I want to punch myself in the face when I say that out loud, but that's the truth. I have this video, her satanic ceremony, where she's wearing like this black robe and she's wielding a giant silver knife and the candlelight flickers on the knife and she says, "Oh, Father Satan, I summon you." When I said that to Northern Ireland, like, hey, this is what she's doing now, 3 months later, 5 U.S. Marshals show up at her door.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
Johnathan, what HBO show have you produced? I saw on your bio there was an HBO mention.
Oh, I did a show with Mark Wahlberg called Wahl Street, spelled W-H-A-L, Wall Street, based on his last name, Wahlberg. And it chronicles, it's going into its 4th season now, I believe. It's chronicling all of his businesses. You know, he's not just an actor. He's got a clothing line. He's got a line of gyms and fitness stuff. He's got Wahlburger, a line of fast food places. Like he's got a lot of businesses. So Wahl Street was just kind of the pinging back and forth, chronicling his entrepreneurship.
What a great idea for a show. It doesn't quite feel like an HBO show in some sense, but it is a great idea for a show.
Yeah, I mean, we made it pretty cinematic, and the season that I worked on happened during the pandemic. So you kind of saw him freak out. All the businesses shut down. All of his office buildings were evacuated. And at that time, he was planning to move to Las Vegas, which he has since done. He's trying to create a little Hollywood in Vegas, is what he's up to now.
What does that mean? Like production studios and stuff like that?
Yeah, a studio, and have like a lot of people are doing it because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's not that far from LA, so you can draw talent from LA. It's just a drive to Vegas, 4 hours, whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of space to set up studios. Although I kind of think the typical studio is going to get replaced by AI, which maybe is a cliche thing to think.
There's a lot of AI coming to do everything for everyone.
Because you think about it, what does the studio provide? The studio provides the actors, and they pay, tens of millions for that on big budget shows. They provide the studio and they provide the CGI, like all the effects, special effects.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the actual script, which is really what the movie is the cheap part. Like writers usually don't charge as much as the other things cost. And yet the other things, AI can replace all of them.
Yes, but I am hopeful. I mean, I've been using AI for a lot of things, and I try to keep up in what it's capable of. And, half of me is impressed. The other half of me is disappointed because it doesn't do anything new. It just repeats what's been done.
You're right.
And I've been using it, I'm working on a new podcast now called Cocaine Air, which ironically is a con story. This guy got conned and it turned him into the greatest cocaine smuggler of all time for Pablo Escobar. So I've been working on different episode cover art for the YouTube stuff. And immediately I'm impressed. Wow, it can produce all this cover art. But then third or fourth go, it's like, oh, it's just the same slop. It keeps spitting out the same thing in variations over and over. Nothing original.
I know what you mean, but it's better than it was 2 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, after I watched and by the way, I really want to talk about your book. We'll get to that in a second. But I watched the movie, The Fantastic Four, the other day, and then I went home and went on Google VO, which is their text-to-video program, and I said, show Galactus walking in New York City. And it made kind of because in the movie, Galactus walks in New York City and crushes buildings and the whole thing. And anything that didn't look as good as that, but maybe TV cartoon as good as that.
Right.
So in a few years, it will do something which cost Disney maybe $15 million to make that scene, and in a couple of years you'll do it for free, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that pros and cons, but still, based on my understanding of how everything works and my experience with it, it can only ever repeat stuff in variations. Coming up with original things, I've not seen it do, both graphically or storytelling.
Definitely on the
You know?
storytelling, I agree with you. I don't
Yeah.
think it could replace really great dialogue because that's something that's, the imagination creates something new. Otherwise, it's not good if you've already read it.
Yeah, and real people, like, if you look at what happened to me with my con artist, the story she told and the way she conned me and conned everyone with different stories and dangling all these stories at the same time, like spinning all these plates, AI couldn't do that. Like, they were just so original and so far-fetched and so out there. I don't think AI can ever replace that human creator, storyteller element. I mean, it can do a lot of other stuff, but coming up with original ideas, I've not seen it do.
So let's talk about that. So by the way, just so you know, I'll do a complete intro describing you and the book, and I loved it. It was fascinating. So many questions. So
Thank you.
you wrote this book, Anatomy of a Con Artist, in part inspired by your own experiences being conned. So obviously, I want to hear about that story first. How were you conned? You're a smart guy. How are you conned?
I hear that all the time, and I will tell you, con artists don't outsmart you, con artists outfeel you. They use your emotion against you. They use your human nature against you. They trick you into caring about them or caring about a cause they've created out of whole cloth, and then they use your caring, your love, to manipulate you, because once you're making decisions with your heart and not your head, you're as good as conned. And that's what happened to me. And that's what happens to every victim of every professional con artist. I believe, based on my own research, it is the most underreported crime in the world, because the vast majority of victims who get conned by professional con artists, I'm not talking about someone calls on the phone and says they're from the IRS. I'm not talking about someone approaches you at the 7-Eleven and has a story and gets your money. No, no, no. A professional con artist is someone you know, someone in your life, a new friend, new neighbor, new boyfriend, new girlfriend, someone you might know for years, and you just think they're this great person. Meanwhile, they're a professional con artist. They're scamming everyone around you. No one's talking about it, and they'll eventually get to you, and then they move away.
And that's so fascinating. These professional con artists, like that's what they do for a living.
Yes.
And so like we
Yes,
know the ones that get caught, like obviously Madoff or whatever, or some of the examples in your book. But are there a lot of people out there who are just, they do it for a bunch of years and then they move to some other country and disappear, or?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of professional con artists working today in the plain light of day, and they never get caught, because it's one of the red flags I talk about in the book. I call it the red flag of TMI, too much information. You meet a professional con artist for the first time. These are charismatic people that you like immediately. And, they offer to help you, another red flag. They're too kind, too quick, another red flag. And they get in tight with you. And one of the techniques they use to keep you quiet after they scam you is too much information. They divulge, they trust you, they take you into their confidence, and they trust you with their deep, dark secrets. You just met them, and they start divulging all their deep, dark secrets. And that does two things. Number one, it lets you think, wow, this person, this new neighbor, new coworker, new boyfriend, new girlfriend, they must really trust me. They must really think highly of me to tell me all their deep, dark secrets. And then number two, they lull you into a sense of believing you can reveal your deep, dark secrets. But here's the thing. Their deep, dark secrets are fake. They made them up. They're lies. They're not true. Your deep, dark secrets are real. So by the time the months pass, or even the years pass, in my case, she got $100,000 out of me over the course of 4 years. By the time all the time passes and they get your money, most people don't want to go to police, because the last thing a victim of a con, yes, they're ashamed they fell for the con, but they're also ashamed that if they go to police, the con artist will be interviewed. The con artist will reveal their deep, dark secrets. They'll end up in a police report, or worse, in a court transcript if this thing goes to trial. So that's the last thing any victim wants. So that TMI technique, it was used in my case. It's used in a lot of con cases I've investigated, hundreds over the past 8 years. It keeps victims quiet. So the con artist goes in a social circle, scamming one person, another person, another person. No one's talking about it.
So maybe describe broadly how this woman, you talk about her in the book quite extensively, Mayor Smith, how did she con you?
I got conned out of close to $100,000 helping an Irish heiress get her inheritance. And I want to punch myself in the face when I say that out loud, but that's the truth. But there was nuance, right? When I met her, she was a new neighbor in my building who'd offered to help me. Red flag number one, they offer to help. 90% of the cases I've investigated, the con artist gets into the victim's life offering to help. Who doesn't love a helper, you know? So she offered to help with a problem I was having in our building where I live in Los Angeles. We had this pool. It had gotten taken away. There was a lawsuit with another building. I was galvanizing all the residents to get the pool back. And she said she was dating this big-time politician, partner in a big law firm, sued our building twice in the past already. He can get the pool back, you know? So she offered to help and she got in immediately. But very quickly we became friends. And very quickly we got close. She did the TMI technique, divulging all her deep, dark secrets. I told her my deep, dark secret at the time. This was back in 2013. I had, come out years earlier as gay. And part of my family disowned me. I hadn't been home for Christmas in almost 8 years at that point. So I was raw from it, you know?
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
When I was younger, you would see TV shows, someone would say that they're gay and their family would disown them. Does this still happen, that families still disown people? And maybe I'm being naive and just uneducated about this.
Well, what city, what part of the country do you live in?
Well, now I live near Atlanta, Georgia, but I grew up in New York and around New York.
Okay. I mean, it depends where you live, right? On the coasts, no. But still, listen, in the Midwest, in a lot of parts of this country, yeah, families are disowning their kids for being gay. Gay people are being fired from their jobs for being gay, being kicked out of housing for being gay. Sometimes it's stated outright, sometimes it's not. But this was years ago, but still, it's still happening. Being gay is not okay. As much as people want to convince you that gay is everywhere. I mean, yes, it is, but there are countries where people are still being executed for being gay. It's not okay. And any person who comes out knows that and knows. I'm lucky I live in Los Angeles. Being gay is normal here. But there are parts of the country, my husband went to Utah the other day for work, and it's not okay to be gay over there. I mean, they're not going to arrest you, but, you got to keep that stuff to yourself because, someone could come up and, I don't know, beat you up, be angry, yell something at you. Like, there are a lot of parts of this country it's not okay to be gay. And, we're evolving. It's better than it's ever been, but we're not there yet.
Right.
But yeah, my family, I hadn't been home for Christmas. And immediately as Mayor Smith, that's the name she gave me, not her real name. Immediately she tells me, oh, well, my family disowned me too, because they're trying to get me disinherited. And she starts unpacking her Irish inheritance story. She's from Ireland, and she's got all the requisite props. She had a framed Irish constitution hanging on her living room wall. It had the signatories. One of them was her great-great-grandfather, the founder of Ireland. She presents herself. She says she's Irish royalty originally, and she's got this 25 million euro inheritance coming. And while she's unpacking this story, this grandiose story, she's backing it up with a lot of one of the red flags I write about in the book, technology. She would sell this story to me over the screen of her phone and her computer and her iPad. I would see emails from barristers. I would see texts from her cousins Fintan and Tristan and her uncle Patridge Clarke, Clarke. All of these weird phrases, farthing, you'll never get a bloody farthing. I believed all these characters, AKA her family members in Ireland, were real because I saw texts and emails from them. How many times has someone held up their phone and said, look what so-and-so just texted me?
Okay, you know what?
Did you ever?
That happened to me once. A guy was seeking investment for his company, and he had some sort of miracle drug, and he showed, look what Paris Hilton just texted me, and he showed me the text. And I don't know if that text was real or not, but he did turn out to be somewhat of I don't want to say it, but, whatever it is you would say.
I'll say it, a scammer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a technique they use very effectively.
I don't know if that was a text from her or not. I have no idea.
Well, it's super easy for that guy, and it was super easy for my con artist, Mayor Smith, to create these Google texting accounts in these characters' names and text herself. She was friends with Jennifer Aniston. So you'd look at her phone and, a text from Jennifer Aniston. But it wasn't Jennifer Aniston. It was in a Google account she created and named Jennifer Aniston. So when the text came in, it was from Jennifer Aniston, but it's not. This is just a technique cons use. So if someone's showing you their screens a lot to show you their bank account or show you what so-and-so said or did, be suspicious. It is a red flag. So it was crucial in her building this story that I believed hook, line, and sinker. Then all of a sudden, her family tries to get her disinherited. They're trying to get her convicted of a crime. They make up a crime that she stole money from her employer, which was a travel agency, a luxury travel agency in Los Angeles, Pacific Islands Travel. And she gets arrested. I bail her out of jail because I know what's going on. Like the family's trying to do her in so they can get her share of the 25 million euros. That's a lot of effing money. And I worked in the news business for 10 years. I've seen cases again and again and again of husbands who knocked their wives off for $1 million insurance policy. So now we're talking the equivalent of close to $10 million, her share. What would people do for that money? Anything. So over the course of our friendship, and she was my best friend, I loved her as much as any gay man can love a woman. We were ending phone calls with, I love you, like we weren't just friends. We were two discarded souls bonding in Los Angeles, being rejected by our families, like that's how con artists get in with you.
And this was all technique for her, like not a real emotion there.
Oh, but she was a brilliant actress. They all are. So many times when the family was attacking her, keep in mind the family doesn't exist, she would cry tears. I would be consoling her in my arms. Her tears wet my shirt collar. And I'm rocking her as she convulsively cries over a family that does not exist, but the tears were real, Like they're so good. And these people are everywhere. They're everywhere. And I figured out why I went so public with little concern about what people think of me. I'm cut from different cloth. I had a different kind of upbringing, and that uniquely prepared me for this, because the vast majority of victims who call me for help, the first thing they say is, if I go to police, do I have to use my real name? And I'm like, yeah, that's like the least you got to do. This is a hell of a mountain we got to climb, and you don't stand a chance if you don't want to use your real name, but most people are shackled by embarrassment, by this fear of what will people think. I never had that. And for a while, I couldn't figure out why that is. And then I did. I'll tell you real quick. I was a news reporter. I was a reporter, right? For 10 years, I worked at a station in WSVN in Miami. I worked at a station at KBB TV in San Antonio and in KHU TV in Houston. So I moved around. I was a reporter. So back when I was 24, 25 years old, I got my first on-air reporting gig. I'd never been on the air before. So my first on-air gig. And it was in San Antonio, KBB TV. And I did my first story. I was like a feature reporter. I did like fun stuff happening in the city of San Antonio. So I did my first story. I went out all day. I shot it. I interviewed people. I wrote it. I edited it. And then I went to the studio and fronted it. And it was amazing. It was an out-of-body experience. The TV anchors clapped, and I was amazing. I walked back into the newsroom. All the anchors and reporters and my boss, Alan Little, God rest his soul, the news director, standing ovation. It was an out-of-body experience for me. I was the man. I felt king of the world, right? 60 seconds later, I go over to my desk and I get my first voicemail from a viewer. And it's this angry Texas woman cursing. Like, can I curse on your show? I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to adequately express what
you're welcome.
I'll never.
Please curse.
These words have rung in my head for decades. She said, "You bald-headed motherfucking faggot. You so fucking ugly. How the hell you get on TV, you bald-headed motherfucking faggot?" And I was devastated because A, I had just come from a standing ovation for my marvelous piece, and now I'm like too ugly to be on TV. And B, I wasn't even out yet, and she's calling me a faggot. Like, I was just crippled. I went to bed that night, coiled in the fetal position, crying, wondering, what have I done? I got to quit. I can't do this. But then as the weeks passed and I started getting into my groove, I quickly learned I can't look for people's opinions about me or what I do because I'll never get anything done. I have to turn a story a day, a feature story every day. It's like making a little movie every day. And I don't have time to be asking people, what do you think? What do you think? Let me please you. Let me please you. Let me please you. No, I got to please me, and I got to ignore what everyone says. So I was fortunate that from my early 20s, I learned that lesson. I don't care what anyone thinks. I can't. It'll destroy me. And that just multiplied when I came out at 30 years old. Any openly gay person has to resign themselves to accepting not everyone's cool with this. Your family might disown you. People are not going to like it. But you know what? Fuck them. I got to do what I got to do. I only care about what I care about. I can't care what you think. So those two events in my life uniquely prepared me. After I got conned and I went to police, it never, and I'm not lying, it never occurred to me to even fathom what are people going to think. It didn't even occur to me. Didn't even occur to me. But yet, 99% of every victim I speak to, that's the first concern. What are people going to think? Again, I think I was uniquely poised to bring this woman to justice because after she conned me, I went to police and they laughed. They thought I was making it up. They turned me away.
But let me ask first, though, how did she get up to the, and again, a lot of these stories you describe in the book and in a very riveting way, and there's so many details that we're obviously going to leave out, but how did she get you up to the 100,000 point? That's like a lot of money.
Little by little. Death by 1,000 cuts, right? Little by little. So she concocts the story, well, brilliantly, and this is a technique a lot of con artists use. I call it in the book, it's the red flag of beak-wetting. They let you wet your beak. A lot of investment scams, a lot of romance scams. My scam, the inheritance scam, I loan her $5,000. She gets arrested and I bail her out of jail, $5,000, almost, $4,800 something, $5,000. And she pays me back the next day. I come to find out it was another victim whose money she scammed to pay me back. But anyway, I got the money back the next day. So that gave me confidence. Con artist is short for confidence artist, if you didn't know. That gave me confidence to loan her more money because I thought to myself, oh, this is a woman of her word. I extend myself $5,000. I get it back the next day. I can trust her. I have confidence in her. And then after that, she concocts story after story after story in a way that no AI could. First, the family, pays off a dirty LADA to freeze her bank accounts. And then she needs to borrow money to live on. So I start paying her rent, $4,000. I start loaning her money to live on. I get up to $20,000, $25,000. And then she says, well, this case against me that my family made up, my lawyer, is going to make it go away. They're winning. And she shows me in the email from the lawyer. Again, it wasn't from the lawyer. It was a fake email account she created in the name of a lawyer to show me that email. But I believed it because I was naive. I didn't know. And there's also a level of sunk cost fallacy at work. If you're familiar with that, a lot of gamblers have it. A lot of people who start watching a movie on Netflix have it. You're 20 minutes into this horrendous movie. Why do you keep watching? Well, I'm this far in. I want to see how it ends. I might as well finish. I'm this far in. So that whole idea of I'm this far in. So I start loaning her more and more money, to clear her name. And eventually it adds up to close to $100,000. And that's when I discover the first lie. In the 4 years that I'd known her, I'd never caught her in a lie because I'd never tried, because I just believed she was who she said she was. But then I caught her in the first lie.
I need to let everyone know that my entire life has changed because of this podcast sponsor, Uplift Desk. Normally, I wake up, get to my desk, and sometimes I'm at my desk sitting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or even more. I hate it. I hate the fact that I no longer move. I started using the Uplift Desk and it's completely changed my routine. I'm happier, and it didn't just improve my posture. I feel like I'm thinking more clearly. It's like I see more of the world because I'm standing up, and I actually enjoy being at my desk. But even this little punching bag, when I get upset, I can punch it. I realize how important your workspace is to just your general well-being and health. And it's just important to move more during the day. Uplift Desk definitely helps me be a little healthier or a lot healthier. My time when I'm at my desk, I have more energy, more focus. It's only been a few weeks, but I honestly feel happier when I'm standing up at my desk And people could even tell when I'm on Zoom calls, for instance, that I seem to be more energetic. So look, your workday doesn't have to leave you feeling worn out. Go to upliftdesk.com/James and use the code James to get 4 free accessories, free same-day shipping, free returns, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty that covers your entire desk, plus an extra discount off your entire order. That's upliftdesk.com/James for this exclusive offer. It's only available through this link. So elevate your workspace with Uplift Desk. Go to upliftdesk.com/James for a special offer.
The first lie was, so after she won the case against her, the judge is angry at her that I let her charge my credit cards to pay her court fees, and that's money laundering, the judge said. He's slapping her on the wrist, slap on the wrist, 30-day sentence. She goes to jail for 30 days, and then she gets out, gets her inheritance. We all live happily ever after. Well, she goes to jail for 30 days. I believe this whole story. She's calling me from jail every day. About 2 weeks in, I want to come visit her in jail. She's like a sister to me. Of course I'm going to visit her in jail. She says, no, I don't want you to see me like this. No. But I ignore her because this is like my family in jail. I'm going to go. So I don't know if you've ever visited anyone in jail, but in LA County, it was an experience. You got to go to the website. You got to create like a Facebook type profile. You got to upload your ID, upload all your personal info. Then you got to click on the inmate you want to visit. And when you click on the inmate you want to visit, that's when the crimes come up. So I click on her name and then I see what she's in jail for. It's not money laundering. It's not a slap on the wrist. No. She was in jail for pleading guilty to stealing $200,000 from her employer. She pled guilty. So this whole cock and ball story about, this case is going away, her family made the case up. No, they didn't. She pled guilty. So that was the first lie I caught her in. And then I confronted her. I recorded it. I put it on my podcast, Queen of the Con. The confrontation. She just denies it. That's not true, Johnathan. That's not true. And then tears are in her eyes as she's denying it. But at that point, I knew those tears were fake. Like, this is all an act you're doing, lady. That's not true, Johnathan. That's not true. Oh, I wanted to kill her. I wanted to punch her in the face. I was so angry. I can't even, I'm a vegetarian, right? I'm a live and let live kind of guy. I always have been. But in the wake of getting conned by this woman who was like my sister, someone who I would swear for, someone who I thought I knew for 4 years, I was a shell. I was not myself. I had these murder fantasies all of a sudden. I had fantasies of murdering her.
And did it start then with the first lie, or like at that point, the jig was up, or?
Well, yeah. So the first lie, it's like that famous saying, lies are like rats. When you spot one, it means there are 1,000 others hiding. And boy, there were 1,000 others hiding. I did a background check on her. I found out she was charged with fraud and grand theft and passing bad checks in multiple states. I confronted her. She denied it. I went to police. They initially turned me away. But then I started my own investigation. I started a blog. And I started very quickly uncovering dozens and dozens of other victims in LA, in Florida, in Maine, in Tennessee, in Michigan, in New York. She's been scamming since she was a child. One of her early cons was when she was in high school. I heard from her high school boyfriend eventually. He was in college at the time. She was in high school. She would pretend to be pregnant. She would date college guys, have one-night stands, say that she was pregnant, and then shake them down for abortion money. And they all paid, no questions asked. Brilliant con from the mind of a teenage girl, right?
And certainly not going to the police.
No. They're not going to, they're just thankful she came to them, and they don't want to have a baby. They're in college. They have plans. So they paid her all to go away. So this is the woman I'm dealing with. I had no idea. So eventually I built a really compelling case that police couldn't ignore, and I got her arrested and charged, and eventually a trial, and got her convicted. Jurors deliberated 3 hours, and she got sentenced to 5 years in jail.
Wow, 5 years.
Yeah, the max.
And so now she's out though, right?
Oh, the plot thickens. So she gets out early because of COVID, but part of what the blog uncovered, remember all the rats? I get a call from a police detective in Northern Ireland. He had been looking for her for 10 years. So she wasn't from Ireland, but she had moved there in 2000 and lived there for 8 or 9 years and married a local Northern Ireland guy and scammed a couple dozen people out of $500,000 and disappeared. And this guy, this detective, had been looking for her for 10 years. So back in 2017, when he's on the phone with me telling me all this, he tells me, I'm going to start extradition proceedings. Now, that seemed like impossible. Like, extraditing an American citizen to another country is so hard to do. It's nearly impossible. So as the years pass, my con artist gets released from jail. I start the podcast, Queen of the Con. I start hearing from other victims of her. I know exactly where she's at. She moves to Maine. Out of jail in LA, she moves to Maine, the furthest you can get from me in California and still be in the contiguous United States. And she starts up new scams in Maine. She's raising money to run rescue missions in the Ukraine. And then she starts this satanic church. I kid you not. She changes her name to Lucia Belaya, and she starts scamming Satanists. These Satanists start calling me for help and advice. Help! She infiltrated our group. What can we do? So I start working, this goes back to the phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I start working with devil worshipers to take this woman down, And I do believe the satanic church thing, that was the straw that broke the camel's back in Northern Ireland, because Northern Ireland is a deeply religious, deeply Christian country. And over the 7 years, I've been feeding all her new whereabouts to the police in Northern Ireland. She was living out of Airbnbs. She was smart not to get a permanent address. She just kept moving. Every month or two, she's at a new Airbnb. And the podcast took off, so I know exactly where she is. Victims are telling me, she's at this Airbnb now. I just saw her there. She's my new neighbor now. Here's her address. So I have this video, and it's on my website, a short clip of it, her satanic ceremony where she's wearing like this black robe, and she's wielding a giant silver knife, and the candlelight flickers on the knife, and she says, "Oh, Father Satan, I summon you." Like, when I said that to Northern Ireland, like, hey, this is what she's doing now, 3 months later, 5 U.S. Marshals show up at her door, at her Airbnb, the address that I sent to Northern Ireland, and they arrested her. This was back in February 2024. And they extradited her to Northern Ireland. Right now, she is sitting in a jail cell in Northern Ireland. She's been sitting there for more than a year, awaiting trial. The date keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. She's in jail. I'm hearing from parents of inmates in that same jail. She's still scamming people in jail. She's telling people her name is Maxine, and she's in there because her IRA husband committed a murder and put it on her. Like, these people will always scam. It doesn't matter how much you catch them. You give them people who don't know who they are, they're going to start telling stories.
And what's her goal in telling these new stories?
Well, con artists are all psychopaths. They don't operate like regular people. They have no feeling. They get off on inventing stories. They're always directing a movie, and we're all taking part unwittingly. And they love that. They love creating worlds that do not exist. It brings them pleasure. They're not regular people. They're psychopaths. And I say this in the book, criminals are criminals, right? You look at a mob boss who's ordered the hits of hundreds of people, has blood on his hands. But even a mob boss loves his family, loves his children, loves his parents, his brothers, his cousins. Con artists, mine included, they don't love anyone. They will scam anyone, their children, their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins, again and again and again. These are the cases I investigate. This con artist, they scam everyone. I don't consider them human beings as we understand human beings to be. They're psychopaths. And I used to take it so personal that she scammed me. But now I realize it wasn't personal at all. I was just next in her path. It's like a shark moving through the ocean. If you're in the path, you're going to get bit.
Why do you think she targeted you? And I want to get into the actual anatomy, and you mentioned a couple of kind of red flags, but why do you think she targeted you for this scam? So she got $100,000 out of you, but she first saw you because you were putting up flyers around the building. Like, do you think she did further research? It's like, oh, he's a TV producer in Hollywood. He must have some money or whatever.
looking back, and again, I didn't realize this until after writing the book, and recently I didn't realize what I'm about to tell you, but now I realize it. So we lost the pool in our building. I took it upon myself to galvanize our residents and organize this effort to get the pool back. I was the do-gooder. Now that I know everything about her, she must have looked at that flyer I posted all over the building, and that told her all she needed to know to create the perfect con just for me. She must have read that flyer and thought to herself, this guy's a do-gooder. I'm going to get him to do good for me. Because that's exactly what she freaking did. I was trying to do good for her. She was a damsel in distress. I was trying to rescue. And she came up with a unique con for every victim. She impersonated a psychologist. She had patients. She had people paying her for therapy. And she was scamming all of them. And none of them want to go to police. It's the most infuriating few conversations I've had with these people. I'm begging and pleading, let me help you file a police report. Let me help. They don't want to because she knows their deep, dark secrets. One of the red flags I write about TMI. But she told people she was a child custody investigator for the courts. She told people she was a lawyer. She masqueraded as the manager of a hockey team. She had so many different personas that she used to scam disparate victims. And she had all these, this is all while I knew her. I had no idea she has all these other personas scamming all these other people. I just knew her as this heiress in trouble that I'm helping, But this was her full-time job, scamming people.
That's so incredible. I want to tell you how I'm going to start my next business. And I just want to say, I always have a hard time with paperwork. Like, how do I register an LLC? What state do I do it in? What forms do I fill out? I'm incompetent when it comes to any kind of paperwork. But I'm going to use this company, Northwest Registered Agent. That's Northwest Registered Agent. You could use them and you could build your business in just 10 clicks and in 10 minutes or less. Starting a business should be all about ideas and executing and getting customers and building a product. It shouldn't be all this complicated rules and paperwork, but Northwest Registered Agent makes it super simple. They've been helping businesses launch and grow for nearly 30 years. They know what they're doing. And if you want to build your business while keeping your business information secure, Northwest is the partner you need. So don't wait, protect your privacy, build your brand, and set up your business in just 10 clicks in 10 minutes. You can get more information. Just visit northwestregisteredagent.com/James. That's the key part. And start building something amazing. Whatever idea you have, just start. Just start the business today. It's super cheap. Get more with Northwest Registered Agent at northwestregisteredagent.com/James. So your book is structured as a set of red flags, and you tell different stories of some very high profile cons and scams in every red flag. But let me ask you, like the first red flag is be helpful. Then it's too kind too quickly, too much information. You mentioned the fourth one, but there was technology and
drama. They isolate you. They convince you they're better than you. There's an element of scarcity where you got to act fast.
Right, and so
they want a bank wire.
But like the I want to help you and the too kind too quick, the too much information, these things, a lot of, like, for instance, you're a helpful person. You helped the 444 residents of your building without even knowing them. You're going to be helpful.
Right.
You obviously, it's what made you impervious to going to the police. You're fine with sharing too much information. Like, good people also have some of these qualities.
I agree. And I say this again and again in the book. One or two of these red flags does not necessarily mean you're dealing with a con artist. But as they start to compound, if you notice 3 of them or 4 of them,
right.
Another red flag my con artist and every con artist use, I call it the stories from faraway places flag. Con artists like to snow you with stories from faraway places because those stories are impressive and they're hard to confirm. And human nature being what it is, if you can't prove something is false, you're that much more likely to accept it as true. My con artist said she was on the Olympic team in Maine and her parents stymied her. She had stories from Ireland. A lot of con artists like to tell stories from faraway places because you can't prove that they happened. You can't prove they didn't happen. So you'll just accept it.
That's really fascinating. Do you think they instinctively know this or it's something they've learned?
Oh, yeah. No, both. Most con artists have been doing it since they were children. I heard from a childhood friend of my con artist who, they were 10, 11 years old together, and she would trick this little girl. She's a 10-year-old girl. She's tricking another 10-year-old girl into going in a stranger's house, telling her it's her house. But it wasn't her house. Why would she do that? Because even back then, these effing people are psychopaths, and they enjoy their power over people. Even as children, they get off on it, and they get better and better and better. Every time they get caught, they get better. Every time they get caught, they're not going to do that again. They get better. So by the time I met Mare Smith in her 40s, she was at the pinnacle. She could just lay it all out, and I drank it all up. I believed it. I was naive. When someone tells you, I'm from Ireland, you just believe it. Who's going to lie about where they're from? A professional con artist, that's who.
What was the point where she all of a sudden realized you were too good, you had too much knowledge now, you knew what was going on?
Well, after the confrontation, she denied it, and then I never saw her again. The next time I saw her was in criminal court, testifying in court against her. And then what happened was, I feel like I got drafted into this con hunting thing because my story exploded. There's an article in the New York Times about me. The New York Times! My story, So all of a sudden, hundreds and hundreds of other victims of other con artists start reaching out to me to tell me that I've inspired them, to tell me they want to get their con artist. Can I help them? So not knowing any better, I just start helping them and investigating these cases. And, some people play golf on the weekends. I hunt con artists. So it was in doing that over the past 8 years, it suddenly hit me one day. I was like, wait a minute. All of these techniques that all these different con artists are using on their victims are identical to the techniques my con artists used on me. Identical. They offer to help you. They're too kind, too quick. The drama, the isolation, the beak-wetting. Identical. And at that point, I had read a dozen books about con artists. Not one of them made this realization, So I wrote an article about it. And that article eventually got published by the HuffPost. And I got contacted by a lit agent, a big-time lit agent, Jenna Land-Free, God bless her, love her. And she said, hey, this would make a great book. I can sell this if you think you can write it. And I'm like, well, if you can sell it, I can write it. And by God, she sold it pretty quickly. It took me almost 3 years to write it. And here it is, Anatomy of a Con Artist. And it's not just my case, as you pointed out. It's interspersed with other cases I've investigated, either of victims who've contacted me or cases I've done on the podcast, Queen of the Con. Crazy cases, but the underlying theme is the red flags are the same. They're not inventing anything new. It's the same old trick again and again and again.
It's interesting because I really love reading stuff, this kind of stuff in particular, because I feel I get fooled quite a bit to the point when, let's say I'm going to visit a company that's seeking investment, and I know I don't want to invest in it. I also know they're going to convince me no matter what I'm thinking now. So I usually bring someone with me, and I say, remind me after the meeting not to invest in this. Because often scammers find themselves raising money for companies. So
absolutely. You got to go where the money is.
I mean, that was several of the stories in your book. It's from people raising money for their companies or investment opportunities. I mean, Wall Street is filled with this kind of stuff. But what's, maybe in this book or not in this book, what's the worst outcome you've ever seen from that you've personally seen or encountered from someone who was scammed? Going online without ExpressVPN is like having sex without a condom. Most of the time, you might be fine, but the repercussions could be huge. I mean, every time you connect to an unencrypted network in a cafe, a hotel, an airport, your online data is not secure, and any hacker on the same network can gain access and steal your personal data, which like passwords, bank logins, credit card. I'm paranoid about this all the time, which is why it's so important to use a VPN like ExpressVPN. Look, your data is valuable. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per person selling personal info on the dark web, and ExpressVPN stops hackers from stealing your data by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. First off, ExpressVPN is super secure. It would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. It's easy to use. You just fire up the app and click one button and you get protected. Rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. Whenever I go to an airport or like if I'm in a cafe with my computer or whatever, I flip the switch, turn on ExpressVPN to protect myself. It is so important for me to protect my personal data. It should be personally important to you as well. So secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Altucher, Altucher. That's expressvpn.com/Altucher to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/Altucher.
Well, I write about this in the book, this case, in the chapter of beak-wetting, because this is a great example of beak-wetting. And I have to be careful because the people involved do not want to go public, because the people involved are my family. Without being specific, I will just say that my entire family, cumulatively, lost millions and millions of dollars to a con artist named David Smith. My family is from Jamaica. That's a whole other story. So this happened in Jamaica.
You look very Jamaican.
I do. I get that a lot. Below the waist, trust me. So David Smith was this foreign exchange whiz. He was like a Bernie Madoff, but this was before Bernie Madoff, so no one had a frame of reference. And he was offering 10% per month on people's investments. And how he pulled it off was beak-wetting. He claimed the first few hundred investors, he would, and technology, he'd created like a banking type of website you could log into his company and see your account. But obviously it's all fake. But it feels real because you're logging in, there's your money. It's growing 10% every month. You want to take out, a couple $1,000s? He'd give it to you. He'd let you wet your beak because he knew human nature is a hell of a thing. Again, con artists don't outsmart you. Con artists outfeel you. And greed is a hell of a powerful feeling. So he knew that these people, they don't want to take the money out because the more money they take out, the less interest they're earning. They're earning compound interest of 120% a year. So word spreads quickly and everyone starts investing. And it's easy to doubt David Smith, right? It's easy to be suspicious of David Smith. But when your brother, when your father, when your cousin tells you, hey, I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on this investment. Come on, don't be an idiot. Get in on it. You're going to get in on it because now you're not just taking David Smith's word, you're taking the word of your family and friends. But ultimately, it was a Ponzi scheme. It was a Ponzi scheme before, the Ponzi scheme of all Ponzi schemes. So no one had a frame of reference. This was years before Bernie Madoff. My whole family invested heavily in David Smith. And in one fell swoop, they lost millions of dollars. So did 2,000 other people.
And I guess there wasn't enough money to pay people back after he was caught because he would use money from one to pay off another to keep the Ponzi scheme going.
Exactly. What he did, and I lay this out in the book to explain how this works, he paid $4,000 and got certified in foreign exchange trading. He never made $1 foreign exchange trading, but he knew the lingo. He knew the banks to use. He knew the paperwork to file. So he knew how to look like a foreign exchange trader. He just didn't know how to make money foreign exchange trading. And he never foreign exchange traded. It was a Ponzi scheme. He robbed Peter to pay Paul. And he kept that going for a while, for years, scammed 2,000 people.
He never tried, I always wonder about Madoff. I always think maybe in the very beginning, he tried to be legit. He turned out to be a bad trader and he was so ashamed of that, it turned into a Ponzi scheme. This is just my private theory.
Right.
About him.
I think that's your desire to see the best in people at play. Mm-hmm. But from what I know about the Bernie Madoff case, I think from the get, he knew exactly what he was doing. And he employed all the tricks. Whenever people would doubt him, he'd threaten to kick them out. Oh, you want paper? You don't believe? Well, go invest your money. Take your money. He'd try to give them their money back. And again, classic human nature. You try to tell someone, get out. They want to stay. No. It's okay. Don't look at me. You want to look at them. Don't look over there. You want to look over there. Bernie Madoff was a genius. And the other brilliant thing about his con was his returns weren't that huge. So they kind of snuck in under the radar. He was just on paper, 10, 12% a year? Not huge.
What was odd with him it's interesting from a Wall Street perspective, was not the size of the returns, it was the consistency.
Yes.
That was the like Wall Street equivalent of 10% a month. Doing 1% a month consistently
Right.
is like almost more unbelievable than 10% a month if it's a little more
Exactly.
volatile.
And that's another paradox, right? Because that alone should be a red flag.
Yeah.
And yet it makes people feel confident. He can ride above all the fluctuations. He knows what he's doing.
No, it's interesting because now it's making me think of a variety of things. One time I ran what's called a fund of hedge funds. Like I was investing in other hedge funds, and there was one fund that was up also a consistent 1% a month. And that guy ended up paying like $100 million fine and he didn't go to jail, but he ended up being guilty of something and paying like this enormous fine. But he avoided jail. He knew he was probably going to get away with this if he somehow just accumulated enough money, which unfortunately is the case actually in a lot of cases.
Oh, I know. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. I'm hoping to shine a light on these effing people, and I'm hoping that the laws become more stringent, because right now the message in between the lines is lie, cheat, and steal, scam people, and you might serve a couple months in jail. You probably get no jail time at all if you have no priors. So go for it. That's the message.
There's also, particularly in our society, there's a lot of people who've generated wealth without any actual knowledge of money. So for instance, sports figures and entertainers and so on, their business was playing football, not knowing anything about money. Then suddenly they get paid $30, $40 million. Do you think a lot of these people get scammed? You mentioned some high-profile cases, which is why I bring it up.
Absolutely. And I think those are not getting reported at all. There's a wonderful movie I highly recommend. It's riveting. It's on Apple. It's called Sharper. And it's about, I believe it's based on a series of real stories, but it's not, no one's going to say that anywhere because it involves billionaires, right? It's an elaborate con of a billionaire. The son of the billionaire gets justice. He doesn't go to police. Billionaires don't go to police. When a billionaire gets conned, they're not going to tell anyone because they could lose a fortune. If suddenly the CEO of this company or that company admits they fell for a $100 million con, suddenly they may not be the CEO anymore and they get fired. So there is this intense secrecy at that level. And I believe that movie Sharper on Apple kind of exposes what that world is like. And these sophisticated teams of con people who get in there, and you think you're reporting them to the police, but the police is another con man. It's a team of con people working in unison to scam these wealthy people. So I don't have any evidence personally because I don't run in those circles, but if you extrapolate, what happens with us plebeians on the ground is happening at that level too. And more so, they're not telling anyone. They're just quietly dealing with it, either taking the loss, or in the movie I'm referencing, Sharper, they find out how to get the money back, and it was phenomenal. It's such a great movie.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that tonight. Great,
loved it.
And there was the story in one of the early chapters, maybe it was the first or second chapter, about maybe it was the football player. I'm forgetting now. He had
Eric Kramer.
Yeah, Eric Kramer. Maybe you could describe that, because he married this con man. Con woman.
It was just a series of things that conspired to really do him in almost. Eric Kramer, and I've been working with him. I'm doing a podcast about this story. It's called The Quarterback and the Con Artist. It's coming out September 2nd. Keep your eyes out for that. Keep your ears out for that. But when Eric Kramer, retired NFL quarterback, Chicago Bears fame, Detroit Lions fame, Eric Kramer, checks into a motel in 2015 and puts a gun to his head and pulls the trigger, he thinks all his problems will be over. But then he miraculously survives, and all his problems are really just getting started, because for a couple years, he has the brain of a 6-year-old boy. He's not an adult. He's slow, and he doesn't understand things, and he does whatever you tell him. And during that time, a con woman sneaks into his life, marries him in a secret ceremony that none of his friends or family are invited to, and then proceeds to bleed him dry, stealing from him. And the shocking thing about this story that I write, it's in the book in chapter 1, is that for a couple of years, judges, police, lawyers, the system was on the side of the con artist. She manipulated all of them. And Eric's friends and family were shut out. And it looked like things were going down fast, but then all of a sudden, Eric came to. Eric got his faculties back. And in a moment, he has this realization, wait a minute, I don't want to be married to you. I didn't consent to this. How are you living in my house? Get out. You know, he has this realization that he didn't consent to any of this and he's back now. But what does the con woman do? She calls the police and says he attacked her, and they come and arrest him.
Oh my gosh.
They arrest him. But that incident was the beginning of her end. But man, for a while there, it seemed like she was just going to walk away with everything.
How many people who are scammed kill themselves?
You know, the statistics, it's never been studied because of the secrecy of it all, but I imagine a lot. I've spoken to a few people who I felt like I was talking out of suicide. You know, I've gone through a dark place in my own life where I planned my own suicide, and I had like this guardian angel suddenly appear, long story. But so I know what that's like to feel like you have nothing left to live for. And I tell these people, listen, I promise you, the only thing we can be sure of is that everything changes. And how you're feeling right now, I promise you, it's going to change. Everything changes. And the sun's going to come out again one day. You'll see. You can be laughing. You can have a happy life one day. And I know it feels like that'll never happen, but you don't know. Things change. So things are really crappy right now. Guess what? They're going to get good eventually. They can't stay crappy. Everything changes. And when they're good, they're going to get crappy. So it's like life is like this constant up and down. And I've been on the down, down, down. So I get it. But I don't know numbers. This is a thing. I don't, how many victims? I'll tell you a crazy effing story. I went public with my story, and my own mother called me one day, and she says, remember that woman? I don't want to give her name because she's not been convicted of anything, but we'll call her Rose. Remember that woman, Rose, or the family friend you grew up with? I'm like, yeah. My mom's like, she scammed me. She got $20,000 from me, but she tried to get so much more. She tried to sell me real estate she didn't own. And I'm like, really? And my mom's like, yeah. And my mom's like, and I ran into this mutual friend we had, and she scammed the mutual friend too. And then I ran into another mutual friend on an airplane, and she scammed her too. So my mom starts doing this investigative work, inspired by me, and she uncovers that this woman, this family friend of ours, she was at Christmases and Thanksgiving and birthdays. She grew up with us. She was a con woman, scamming everyone in my mother's social circle. No one's talking about it. No one's reporting her. And she just slinks away to the next scam. They move around a lot. That's another red flag. Con artists move around a lot. They have to. Because when the jig's up, you got to leave town and find new victims who don't know you. And it was just, that's how close it cut. My own mother not admitting any of this to anyone, but feeling she can trust me now because I'm a victim and I went public,
In this case, just as a random example, in this case with this Rose who calmed your mom, you have another red flag, which is very interesting, isolation. Like try to isolate you from everyone else. Like, for instance, Eric Kramer's wife / con woman isolating him from his family and friends, getting everyone to hate each other and so on. And this woman, Mare, you're a con man, isolating you from your neighbor from you, like telling lies to each other about each other. How did this woman Rose do it?
I think this woman, Rose, she relied on the fact that these other women she was scamming didn't see each other every day, so she could tell a story. It's remarkably easy to do. You and I never try stuff like this because we're regular human beings. We're not psychopaths. But if you're a psychopath wanting X not to talk to Y, all you got to do is say, hey, X, Y said that you're a fat whore. And I said you're not, but why? And all of a sudden you hate Y, but you're not going to confront them. You're just going to avoid them. It's so easy to do. It's like that old saying, a lie can make it halfway around the world before the truth can get its pants on. Yes, lies are easy to believe because they're sensational and they're dirty and they're interesting and they're multifaceted. The truth is kind of boring. The truth is, Y didn't say anything about you. Y likes you just fine. But no, Y said you're a fat whore. What? I'll never talk to Y again, And that's what Mare did. That's what they all do. It's so easy to do. It's just that if you don't have that mindset. So the minute someone starts telling you so-and-so said something about you or don't talk to so-and-so, that's a red flag. Like, you got to wonder, what is their motivation for, do they want to hurt my feelings? Why would they be telling me this? Unless they don't want me to talk to that person. Let me talk to that person.
So it's so hard to protect yourself because even if you know all these red flags that you write about in the book, like you said, any 2 or 3 of them could manifest themselves at one time, or maybe it is true that, well, I said you're a fat whore, or maybe someone really is very helpful and kind. So some of these things, it's easy for 3 or 4 of these things to show up one time, another 3 or 4 to show up at another time. Like, how do you really truly protect yourself?
I have this fantasy frequently. If I met my con artist today, knowing what I know now, would I know she's a con artist? And the answer is indisputably yes, yes, yes. In the first 20 minutes of meeting Mayor Smith, she waved most of the red flags. She was too kind too quick. She offered to help. She had stories from faraway places. There was so much drama. Yes, I would have known something was up. I would have been suspicious. And then the current me, what I would have done, I would have ran a background check on Mayor Smith. And guess what? Nothing would have come up because that's not her name. There is no Mayor Smith. So then I would have said to myself, obviously that's not her real name. What is her real name? I would have snuck a picture of her license plate. I knew where her car was parked. She lived in my building. I would have ran her plate. Then I would have found her real name, Marianne Elizabeth Smith. Then I would have found the felonies for fraud and grand theft and passing bad checks in multiple states. Then I would have had nothing to do with her because I would think to myself, she's using a fake name. She's got a criminal record. I don't need to know anything more. I'll tell you a funny story. I went to a cocktail party the other night. Friends dragged me to it. I'm not very social. You can imagine why. I've never been very social. I like a certain tight group of 5 or 6 people, and that's it. I don't want to know anyone else. That's how I am. Kill me. That's how I am. So my friends dragged me to this cocktail party, my husband and me, and we're there. And this, it's like probably like 30, 40 people, wine and cheese, fancy, everyone's dressed up. And this couple comes in, a man and woman. They just moved here from Arizona. They're in their late 30s. They're beautiful. They look like an OnlyFans couple. So I'm talking to them and they're telling me, well, they just moved here from Arizona and they're retired now. They just want to spend the rest of their life in LA and see what's out here and, blah, blah, blah. And that was kind of weird. I'm like, well, you guys are so young to be retired, but you made a lot of money. So, okay, retire. Like, that's the dream. Everybody wants to retire young. Great. You're living the dream. But I started paying attention to them because, I sensed the story. That's weird. So I start eavesdropping on them for the rest of the night. I would casually drift over to where they're talking to people, and I heard them tell 3 different origin stories to different people. So to me, they're retired. To someone else, they're saying they work in retail in like Macy's. To someone else, they're saying they work in security. And I start scratching my head like, clearly, these people are scammers. I don't know who they're looking for targets. They're working the room. They're telling their origin stories. And by then, I'm in the middle of the book, right? Like, I don't have time to go pursue any other cases. No one's asked for my help. So I'm going to let this go. But I'm going to warn the host of the party. And I did. I said, listen, this is what I witnessed. In my experience, they're up to something. Like, avoid them. Don't invite them. And they're like, oh, we didn't invite them. They're a friend of a friend. I'm like, of course, they're a friend of a friend. But I have no doubt that OnlyFans couple appeared. They were con artists. They were looking.
Why would they tell
fresh meat.
different stories in the same locations? Wouldn't they think that people would talk to each other at all? Like, they took a risk there as a con artist.
They did. But again, this mirrors my con artist experience, right? Yes, they took a risk, but that risk thrills them. My con artist would invite 5 or 6 different victims she's scamming at the same time to a cocktail party. We're mingling with each other. She told all of us different stories, different origin stories about her. At any moment, we could have compared notes, but we never did. You know why? We're polite people. People want to be polite. We don't want to be rude. I don't want to say, hey, so what did Mayor tell you about her inheritance? Like, that's a crude, rude question. But that would have saved me a lot of heartache because I would have heard the different stories. But, most people only make, especially strangers at a cocktail party, you're just making polite conversation. No one's digging. But this is what they do. And con artists are psychopaths. The thrill they get, you and I would be freaking out. Oh my God, I've told 5 stories to 5 people and now they're talking. Oh my God. But their oh my God is, oh my God, I've told 5 stories. Let's see if this works. They love it. They're evil bastards and they love it. That's what we have to understand. What causes you and I consternation and stress brings them joy and pleasure and bliss, makes them feel powerful when they get away with it. And she got away with it. She had these cocktail parties. Her cover was never blown. She felt that much more powerful. Identical to what's happening in the cocktail party I told you about with the strange, handsome couple from Arizona with different origin stories. I don't know what they were up to, but I can guarantee you it's nothing good. And they're looking for victims.
You know what? I think that's your next book, is following them around until they do something and seeing what happens. That's a TV show too.
Yeah, I regret not getting their name and stuff, but I was so balls deep in writing this book, and I'm, it was just, I'd never written a book before, and it was so much work from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day for like a couple of years. I would just write. And I just didn't have, my blinders were on. I could only focus on the cases I'm working. I wasn't looking for new cases. But I regret it. I wish I did get their real name and follow them up, because I'd be curious to see where they are now.
I know. I'm really curious too. I wonder if you can call the host of that cocktail party and just pursue it a little more.
Maybe I will. Yeah, I can. Maybe I will.
Well, let me know.
I will. That's part 2.
Yeah. Well, Johnathan Walton, author of Anatomy of a Con Artist, such a riveting read. And I hope at the very least this helps me avoid any con artists or scammers. And of course, I hope it helps everybody else who reads it. But really fascinating. The subtitle is The 14 Red Flags to Spot Scammers, Grifters, and Thieves. And also people should listen to your podcast, Queen of the Con, and whatever else you want them to listen to. You have a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, there's one out now called Cocaine Air. By day, TJ Dominguez owns and operates the largest Lamborghini dealership in the world. By night, he's flying tons of cocaine for Pablo Escobar, and his family has no idea. He himself only became a cocaine smuggler because he was the victim of not one, but 2 duplicitous con artists in his life. And this is how it changes you. It turned me into a con hunter. It turned TJ into a cocaine smuggler for Pablo Escobar. It's a crazy story.
I have to ask,
Oh, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
He comes from a good family. He was a good kid. His father was in real estate. His mother was a homemaker in Miami. Originally, they're from Cuba. And his father is working on this new real estate project and secures a $14 million loan. But then he gets cancer and he dies quickly. And on his deathbed, he tells 19-year-old TJ, promise me you'll finish this project. And TJ, his father was everything to him, everything. And TJ promises him, yes, Dad, I will. I promise you. So his dad dies. The $14 million the dad had secured, the bank won't give TJ because TJ's a 19-year-old kid. In their mind, you're nobody. Your dad had the loan, not you. So, good luck finding the money from other places. So TJ tries to secure this money to open this. It was a sugar mill in Haiti the dad had invested in and started building from the ground up. And TJ meets with banker after banker, gets turned away. Eventually, he meets a banker who agrees to give him the loan for $100,000. He has to deposit $100,000 in a good faith deposit or whatever. TJ's 19. He doesn't know. Deposits the money, never hears from the banker again. It was a scam. The banker scammed him. But TJ, which is why he will forever have my admiration and love, TJ gets his money back. TJ realizes this man's a con artist banker and concocts a con to get the banker. He has his buddies pose, and this is in the podcast, TJ tells it so much better than me, as rich Texas oil guys. So these rich Texas oil guys are driving around Miami in this big new Cadillac Brougham, picture it, 1970s, huge, and they want to buy some land. And so they pick up this banker, but to take them around and maybe help them with a mortgage on some of the land they want to buy. They have a lot of money. But no, they're just wearing costumes, cowboy hat, boots. So they take this guy to an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of Miami, and TJ's there, ties into a chair. They beat the banker to within inches of his life.
Wow.
And TJ tells him, give me my effing money back. And the banker's like, I don't have it. So what the banker did to make good, the banker was in a whole other scam. He had a cashier's check for a bank in the Cayman Islands made out to a local car dealership in Miami. So he gives TJ that cashier's check, and TJ buys like a dozen luxury cars and sells them for pennies on the dollar to get his money back. So in the end, he got his $100,000, and he took the guy's Rolex too. In the end, he got his money back in grand fashion. And then he went looking for the loan because he's still trying to open the sugar mill to keep a deathbed promise to his dad. And he finds another banker, and he gets scammed again.
Oh my God.
He gets scammed again. And at that point, he says, you know what? Fuck him. I'm going to be the bank. I'm going to do everything they're doing, but better. And to raise some cash, he smuggles in a load of pot from the Bahamas, and he's really good at it. And, he's trying to raise $14 million. He's making a couple $100,000 here and there. And eventually he starts doing cocaine. And eventually he's really good at it. He's the only cocaine pilot. He had never flown a plane in his life. He bought a plane, learned how to fly. And he's the only cocaine pilot not doing cocaine, never done a drug in his life. And he stands out. He's always on time. He never loses a load. Eventually, Pablo Escobar hears about him and agrees to pay him $5 million a week to fly a plane load of coke for him. And that's when he got deeply into cocaine for Pablo Escobar and was making, in the end, he was bringing home the equivalent of $100 million every month. He had 30 airplanes, mansions up and down the Florida coast. He had a Lamborghini dealership. He had the first cell phone beeper company in South Florida. It's a crazy, crazy story that never would have been if he didn't get scammed. Like, those two con men changed the trajectory of his life, as con men often do to their victims in many different kinds of ways.
So I'm definitely going to listen to that podcast, Cocaine Air.
Cocaine Air.
But I feel like if I made $100 million in a month, no one's ever going to see or hear from me again. Like, I'm just retired. Like, not retired in the sense that couple that you met at the party, but just like, I'm never going to get any phone calls again. I'm just done.
Well, listen, if you keep your current lifestyle, TJ had 30 airplanes. You know how much it costs to fuel those? TJ had like an armada of boats and mansions, and like, it's a high dollar lifestyle.
Yeah.
Every day you're burning through money. So you get kind of in this addictive cycle of money buys the big things, but the big things need more money, but the money buys the big things, but the big things need more money. And you're constantly chasing that dragon. Yeah, if you live a quiet lifestyle, you can last forever on 100 million. But if you have 30 airplanes, that's a lot of upkeep.
Just sell all the airplanes, sell everything, and just be done with it.
Yeah, and that's the irony too. I'm working on the episode right now. It's going to be 12 episodes. 9 episodes are up. But when he was winding down, he was walking away from Pablo Escobar, and Pablo Escobar was not happy. But TJ kind of low-key would miss a flight and have a pilot fill in for him. He'd have a pilot fill in for him. He would get pilots from American Airlines. We unload this in the podcast, how he would approach American Airlines pilots. He didn't want drug pilots because they have problems.
Yeah.
They have a history. He didn't want that. He wanted to bribe a good American Airlines pilot with a couple hundred, 1,000 hours of experience to fly for him. And they all did. He would pay them $200,000 a weekend. They would fly for American Airlines during the week. On the weekend, they'd fly to Colombia, pick up a plane load of cocaine for TJ. He had it figured out. And his downfall, he never got busted. His downfall came from within, Shakespearean style. He had an Iago in his midst, and his Iago brought him down.
What does it mean?
He was betrayed. He was betrayed by someone he loved like a brother. Betrayed him, turned him over to the feds. Without that, he was backing out. He was winding down. He was going away. Like you said, he had enough money coming in from the Lamborghini dealership, from the cell phone company. He had a housing development. He was doing a charter airplane business at that point. So he was backing out of cocaine when it all came tumbling down. His underling got hooked on coke, got sloppy, got busted, and pointed the finger at TJ.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I got to listen to this podcast.
Oh, it's so good. Every word of it is true. I'm riveted. And again, he's like an anti-hero, Yeah, he was a cocaine smuggler, but when you understand how he got into it, there but for the grace of God go any of us. You don't know. Walk a mile in a man's shoes. You don't know how they got there, how they became that, Like, he never set out to be a drug smuggler. Quite the opposite. But shit happens, and we deal with it, and we become different people.
Wow. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Johnathan Walton, author of Anatomy of a Con Artist, but also podcasts like Queen of the Con and Cocaine Air. All interesting stuff that you're involved in. And also, I want to watch Wall Story now on HBO, or Wall Street, rather, about Mark Wahlberg's businesses.
I think you'd enjoy it. His ambition is infectious. He's not like a typical actor. Most actors are just looking for the next movie, but he's looking for the next business to open. And he's getting hit up on all sides. It's kind of like Shark Tank, his life. As you can imagine, people are coming to him to invest, and he has to vet, is this legit? Is this BS? Do her numbers check out? It's fascinating.
Well, again, you're welcome back to the show anytime. And
Well, thank you.
thanks again. It's such great stuff. Great storytelling also by you. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. It was great being on. Thanks for having me.